Alright guys, today we're doing something a bit different on this channel, which is making an entire meal from start to finish. Now right now what I'm doing is washing my kale leaves. Now any vegetables you want to work with, you want to make sure you wash from the very beginning. You don't want any of that dirt ending up in your dish. Now right here, I'm separating the leaves from the stalks. Now the stalks are edible, they're very tough, and you have to saute them a good long while. But that's not this dish. All we want are the leaves. So stalks into a bowl, like so, and we're going to discard those. Now kale is not like spinach. You're going to have to roughly chop it into something about that big, so that when you put it in your frying pan or your saute pan, you're going to cook it down over a long period of time. So you want to help that along by cutting it into small pieces. Now this is a shallot. Now if you've never had a shallot before, it's a lot more mild than your average onion or yellow onion or Spanish onion. It's even more mild than a purple onion. It's sweet, it's light, and if you're not a fan of onion, you should give shallot a try. It's one of the lighter alliums out there. So what we're doing is we're slicing these. We're not dicing them like usual. This is going to go on as a garnish for our steak, because we're going to make our own sauce later on. So clear your surface, and let's take these mushrooms, and what we're going to do first is half them. Now the reason I'm doing this is so I have a flat surface by which to lay them down and slice them. Again, don't worry about speed, worry about technique. You never want to cut on a round surface. Lay them flat, slice them thin, and try to make them all uniform. Okay, so let's clean this out and let's bring out our potatoes. Now with these potatoes, this is a very rustic dish. We're doing steak, we're doing potatoes, we're doing a green. So because it's rustic, we're going to quarter them, put them into 4 pieces. We're going to keep them fairly big. We're going to wash them only once we want all that starch, because we're going to roast them for quite a long time. Now everything I'm doing here, from smashing these garlics and dicing them ahead of time, is called mise en place. It's basically French for everything in its place. This will help your cooking drastically. Now let's move on to the star of the show, the steak. Now these are boneless fillets. What I'm doing here is patting them dry, because later on we're going to sear them, and the drier the steak, the better the sear. So here is all our ingredients, all prepared ahead of time to make our lives easier. Now this is balsamic vinegar. This is going to be key to our dish. And this is Creme Fresh. If you don't have Creme Fresh, or it's hard to find, use sour cream. It'll work just as well. Now we want about 1 ounce of balsamic put to the side. Now this is ghee. You really don't need it. If you can find it, awesome. If not, just use olive oil like I am here. Now what I want to do is season these potatoes quite liberally. These are very starchy. They're going to be in the oven for quite a long time. So salt, pepper those bad boys. This is the herb I chose to use. It's sage. You don't need sage. I just had sage because it was in my fridge for another dish I did. Throw in some thyme, throw in some rosemary. If it's green and it's a herb, throw them on there. Now, don't use your spatula, okay? Use your hands. Use the tools God gave you and toss these potatoes around. And what we're doing here is laying them on a cooking sheet. You're going to roast these potatoes at 450 for about 25 to 27 minutes, or until golden brown. All right, now let's take these steaks. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is pat them dry again. There is a lot of moisture, and we need to get that off to get the sear we want. After that, we're going to season them with some salt, season them with a little pepper. We're going to pat it in there, flip them over, do it to both sides. And look, the seasoning you added, sop it up, and let's put those guys to cook. Now again, you can see my stainless steel pan is very hot. It needs to be, okay? What we're doing is creating a sear. We want the caramelization. We want the sugars in the steak to cook and brown and put a nice crust on that steak. Don't move them too much, all right? Right now, the film is fast forwarded. I've cooked them about 3 minutes. On one side, I'm going to turn, and the steak will tell you when it's ready. It won't come off. Leave it face down. Now, mine was ready to turn. Look at this color. It's dark, it's brown, it's caramelized. Now, I let it cook another 3 minutes before throwing that butter in. It just looks like I threw it in right when I flipped it. Now, what I'm doing here is a technique called butter basting. Notice how nothing's burning. The olive oil is preventing that from happening. What we're doing is we're adding in, we're actually browning the butter, and it's adding a new dimension to that flavor. It's not just salt, it's not just pepper. Now we're adding in that cream, that butter, that brown toasted nutty flavor. And if you've never had it, it's quite unique. You can throw in some thyme, throw in some garlic in the butter, and you'll just add a new layer to the steak, and you will thank me later for sure. So let's go ahead and lay these steaks out, and we're going to let them rest for about 5 minutes while we let everything else finish. Now we're going to dump out all that butter, but we're going to leave in the fond in that pan. And what we're doing is we're going to throw in our shallots, throw in our mushrooms, season them, and let's give them a toss. What we're doing is we're going to start making our garnish for this steak. Once the moisture out of the mushrooms and onions have been sauteed out of it, and it starts to look about like this, that's about the time you want to add in your balsamic vinegar. And we're going to add about 1/4 cup of water. Now increase the heat because we're going to want all that liquid cooked out. Now in goes the ghee. Again, olive oil is just as fine. Throw in your garlic and begin to saute. Now I'm using 2 pans at a time. Now watch the garlic, watch the mushrooms and the shallots. You'll notice that the moisture is leaving those mushrooms pretty quickly. Now in goes my kale. Now, like I said, kale is not spinach. You need to add some water to get these things to wilt. All right. Again, season them. And if you don't add flavor to your vegetables, they are not going to have any flavor. Okay. The salt, the pepper, that enhances the natural flavors of these greens. Okay. Don't go crazy, but you must season. Now look at this right here. Look how caramelized those are. No more moisture. So I'll take those off the heat. Look at these leaves finely wilted down like I said they would. And into a bowl they go. Now in goes the creme fraiche. I stir it, I mix it around. And I'm going to spoon these off into a separate plate. Alright, now clear the board and let's go ahead and slice the steak. You always want to slice against the grain. Now I wanted this steak rare to medium rare is what I had. Again, if you don't like it that pink, leave it on about another minute to minute and a half, okay? Get it to going medium to medium well. Don't cook this steak well done, okay? It's too beautiful of a piece of meat. Don't waste it, okay? A little red won't kill you. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm starting to plate. Usually plating is like my favorite part, but at this point I was so hungry and this video had taken so long and the fights were about to start that I kind of rushed it and it got kind of messy. So what I did was I cooked the meal again the next day and plated it up much better. Enjoy the meal, guys. Enjoy your date night. You deserve it. It's my jam,